No, I never think before I talk. I give the kind of guy the kids don't like. And there's
Welcome back, boys and girls. It's benchmark time. On our last lesson, we went over what a community was. We know that great readers monitor their reading by asking questions that help them understand what they're reading about. Now, in today's lesson, we're going to use fix-up and monitoring skills to help us understand what we're reading as we read St. Louis, a river community. Before we get started reading, we're going to go ahead and look at our fix-ups and monitoring strategies. So the first one is go back and reread. The next one is read aloud. That means to have a loud voice when you're reading it. The other one is summarize. When we summarize, we just put into a shorter little paragraph what we just read. The next one is ask questions. The following one is think about what you already know. The next one is making connections. And then the other one is slow down, because sometimes we read a little bit too fast. St. Louis, a River Community by Keisha Paul. The Mississippi River flows through the middle of the United States. Many communities have grown along the banks of this mighty river. St. Louis, Missouri is one of the biggest. Almost 3 million people live in or around the city. The Mississippi River is a big presence in St. Louis. With such easy access to water, many people there enjoy boating and fishing. Now, what fix-up strategies can I use when I'm having trouble understanding the text? So, I know that in paragraph 1, I read that many communities have grown along the banks of this mighty river. Now, after reading this sentence, I'm not sure that I understand how a river could cause communities to grow. What fix-up strategies can I use to help me understand this? I'm going to look at my fix-ups and monitoring strategies anchor chart to help me identify which strategy I'm going to use. The first one is go back and reread. I think I'm going to try that first to see if that helps me. So, the Mississippi River flows through the middle of the United States. Many communities have grown along the banks of this mighty river. St. Louis, Missouri is one of the biggest. Almost 3 million people live in or around this city. I didn't find anything as I read that helped me understand. So I'm going to have to do some other strategies. I know that if I look at my anchor chart, one of the things that it says is think about what you already know and make connections. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my photographs to see if they help me understand and make connections about things that I already know. If I go ahead and look here, I can look at my photograph and I know that that St. Louis is near the river. And I know that the river looks very big. Maybe ships can go through there and sail on the river. And I know that it can make it easier for people to travel or even trade by boat. Now I understand how the communities have grown along the bank of this river. I'm going to go ahead and make a note there. So I'm going to write here, I'm going to draw my little star. And I'm going to go ahead and write, the river may travel and trade easier. So the river may travel and trade easier. Now, as I go ahead and continue, I know that when I read and I pause if I'm confused or don't understand something. So I need to go ahead and look at my fix-up strategies and use one that's going to help me understand what I've been reading. If one strategy doesn't work, I'm going to have to try another one until it makes sense to me. So for example, I might not be ready to summarize what I read, so I'm going to have to go back and read aloud the first in order to understand. So now that I've shown you guys how to use the fix-ups and monitor strategies when I read a text, I'm going to make sure that I understand. Now you guys are going to try this by yourselves. So I'm going to show you guys the anchor chart to guide you. As I read, boys and girls, I want you guys to pay attention to something that you don't understand. So if we look at this photograph here, like we had mentioned, it shows people working in a factory. And if we look at the caption, it says, "Factory work is an important part of the economy in St. Louis." Let's go ahead and start reading. The Mississippi has affected the community in other ways too. As early as the 1700s, it attracted many traders and settlers to the area. When the United States began to expand in the early 1800s, St. Louis became the starting point for people moving west. Soon after, St. Louis became known as the gateway to the West. Today, people call it the Gateway City. Some prefer the shorter St. Louis. But St. Louis is more than just a gateway. It's a center for business as well. When it was first founded, St. Louis was primarily a fur trading post because of its location on the Mississippi River. In the early 1800s, this city began to industrialize as people built factories along the riverbanks. In the decades that followed, immigration and technology helped St. Louis grow into a career of industry. By the mid-20th century, St. Louis had become one of the world's leading producers of automobiles. Tourism is another important business. Visitors come from all over the world to see the mighty Mississippi and other sights, like the famous Gateway Arch. Baseball fans also come from far and near to watch the baseball team, the Cardinals. Now, boys and girls, I want you to pay close attention. What did you have trouble understanding on this page? Now that you identified what you had trouble with, let's go ahead and look at our anchor charts for fix-ups and monitoring strategies. What's going to help you guys understand that part better? Now that you guys chose strategy, how did that help you understand the text better?